Okay, good morning everybody. We're going to try to continue proceeding with our tutorial, and there's some areas that I've added in that are sort of optional. There's an optional plugin for areas of poor internet connectivity. So we just got out of the QGIS to 3JS tutorial of how to make these 3D landscapes, which is where we ended up just demonstrating at the end of our very first class on Thursday. And now we want to just proceed and go on, but I want to stop here with the Qtiles because this is geared toward a curriculum that'll work anywhere in the world, and often people lose internet connectivity and then the base map simply will not show up, and we need to tackle that. So let's launch QGIS and let's take a look at some of the options to deal with that. I'm using 3.38 Grenoble. I hope to upgrade to 3.4 because some issues are resolved by new versions of the software. But this is where I am. Some of you might be using 3.34. Be aware that particularly when you're using on open source software, there's big changes sometimes in a version. And that's true of the commercial software like Arc2. So it's pretty inescapable. And sometimes you want to be completely up to date, and sometimes the newest versions don't play well with some old files or procedures. So be aware that's one of the inconsistencies when you're doing tutorials, whether it's for QGIS or ArcGIS. Whatever you see the instructor or the teacher doing on screen may not work because things have changed in the version. So that's the version I'm using. I'm going to look at, I always start anew just when I'm doing these tutorials. So I'm going to start with a blank screen again. And remember that I'm using the web quick map services, and there used to be something called open layers, and apparently it's been deprecated. So if you see any tutorials that say that you should get your maps from open layers, that's been deprecated. Another way to get your maps is by using the XYZ tiles, and these are the XYZ tiles, and for that you need to be connected to a service. And I have put Google Satellite as a service and Google Satellite Hybrid and a bunch of others. That's sort of an old procedure too. You make a new connection and then you give it a name and you get a URL, and you got to look online for the address of the service, and that can be a bit of a pain, but be aware that it's there. And when it's there, sure, you can come in and you can add a Google Satellite and Bing. It's the same Google Satellite. It comes in as a layer. It's equivalent to, and I'll remove this layer now, it's equivalent to the layers that you'd bring in if you don't use XYZ tiles, if you come up here and use the plugin, which is easier. All right. So once again, I like to start with a hybrid, and then I like to pull in on top of it so I have it ready. I like to have a Google Satellite so I can toggle off the legends if I want to. And the thing that's a problem is that came in, you'll notice, out of web. So that's under web. It's a plugin for the web. Just as XYZ tiles, when you look at bringing those maps in, it's a connection to the web using a URL, HTTP, blah, blah, blah. So if you don't have connection to the web, then you're not going to get your base map. And you may get your data. Like here, I will put in my layer and add my delimited text layer, as I always do, to start my project afresh. And I go in and grab my HAF, or High Atlas Foundation project sites, and add those points in, and there they are. And I always, by way of review, to make them show up better, I tend to use this little star here. Boom. So, but what you're going to see when the internet goes out is you're going to see basically that. Ouch. So there is a plugin that works with that called Qtiles, and when you go and you say manage install plugins, you would go to Qtiles. I have mine installed, and it says generate map tiles. Tiles are like tiles when you're tiling the floor or tiling the wall, but they're tiles made of maps. And the reason it comes in as tiles is because maps take up a lot of memory. So if you're just focusing on a certain region like Tampa or part of Morocco. You don't need the entire world map. You just need tiles. And so you don't want to save the entire world if you're not using the world. It uses up a lot of memory because they're rasters, which means they're pixels. Depending on your resolution, it can be a lot of memory. So you can get raster tiles from your QGIS project for selected zoom levels, and then use them whenever you need. So I can install my plugin just to make sure I'm up to date. And if I go to Qtiles, like where is Qtiles? Would it be under web? Well, it's not from the web. So Qtiles is under plugins, and you can go Qtiles there, and then you're going to make an output file, and there's a tile set name. I don't quite understand that one. And you can say what extent you're going to use. Obviously, I have there's nothing to run here because I have no map on here. So let me turn on again the Google Satellite, and let me zoom in on an area where I want a highly detailed map, like this village here. I'll go up to information, and that is a house in Lille. And it's got a floodplain you can see down there that probably is very vulnerable to floods. So it could be a lot of catastrophic potential there. And we're also doing a project for my wife's capstone on water pollution from people washing their clothes, washing their dishes, using gray water, and all those surfactants, those soaps, contaminating the agriculture downstream, causing water pollution, and getting into groundwater. So if we wanted to get in on this, and again, we were showing earlier that Google Satellite is pretty good. It's pixelation in the raster as it continuously loads, because these are different loadings of maps. You can see it gets pixelated and unpixelated. This is called level of detail, and it can go pretty close before the level of detail is sort of shot. If you were using an ESRI map, and I can either get the ESRI map from here, this is the ARC one. If you were using the ESRI map instead, I'll toggle this off, it's a nice map when it comes in, but notice that when you zoom in, it gets map data not available. Maybe it's only for the paying people can get that. So, and there's that plane, there's our carpet. So I don't care for the ESRI map, but you could take a shot if you do like a certain resolution of it, and that's what you want behind your picture, because you like the way it looks versus the way this one looks. A little more green, maybe a little more detailed. Then you could have that on there. And once again, too, remember that you could get the ESRI from the XYZ tiles over here. Here's my ESRI XYZ tiles, so I can turn that off, and it looks identical, I believe. Let's see. Yeah. So there's the ESRI XYZ tiles, and there's the ESRI satellite, and they are identical. Just so you know. And I don't need them. I'm going to remove them. I don't want to use the ESRI map. I like the Google map. So goodbye ESRI, and hello Google Hybrid or Google Satellite. Alright, so there we are, and I want to get that tight-in zoom of the village, but I also want to show the floodplain, and this is the map that I need, that I'm working on. And having that, now I can go to plugins and go to MapTileLoader. I think I need to click on that, I'm not sure. You can experiment with that, but if I go to Qtiles and now say that I want this to be a file that is called Imlil floodplain, and I've got where I want it to save, so that's good. Tile set name, I know what that means. There's something called mapnik. I think it should work. And I'm going to use canvas extent, which is just what you see on the screen here. You could use a layer extent if you created a shape file. Maybe I'll show you that. So you can add shape files as polygons by going up to layer and saying you want to create a shapefile layer, for example, and you could call it Imlil floodplain, and you'd set the geometry type to a polygon, and then you need to make a field which should be named to start with, and add it to field list. And you might want to have another field that would be, maybe you want the coordinates, maybe you want to have chief of the village, maybe you want to have, you know, part lead researcher, I mean, whatever you want. And it doesn't let you write a whole bunch of stuff in there. You can add that field list in, and then say OK. And now, when you go to, when you click on it, you can draw that polygon and say, well, I'm really only interested in here to here to here to here. And then right-click and then add the name MapTileLoader floodplain study area. And I don't have a lead research right now, so I'll leave that blank. And then you have a floodplain area. And the reason that that is interesting, let me save this and let me toggle off the editing. You can manipulate, by the way, the symbology and change the opacity so you can see through this. Maybe you want to change the color too. Let's get this to be lower than 30% or so. Apply it and see if you like it. So if that's the area that you want to focus on, then you can play around and zoom in and out and always know that what you're going to do for your Qtiles is just get this area. So let's do that. Let's come in again to plugins and to our Qtiles, and it's got to be called, output file is going to be called MapTileLoader floodplain. All right. But now we're not going to use canvas extent, we're going to use a layer extent, and we're going to pick MapTileLoader floodplain, and that's what's going to clip it. So I can continue to look at the entire map, but I can get just a map of that area, because that may be all I need when I'm offline. And those two small ones, why is it not telling me that I can run it? Minimum zoom, maximum zoom, parameters. It's not letting me run it for some reason. Let's see what happens if I just pick canvas extent. No, that's not letting me run it. Something went wrong here, maybe because I don't have a name. So maybe I need to pick the area out here. I had boundary maps and other data. I think that is what I want to have it in. But if I call the file name MapTileLoader floodplain, say OK, it puts the name in there, which is fine. Full extent, canvas extent. And it may be because, I know why. Because I'm not on Google Satellite. So it doesn't know like what layer I'm trying to make it use. So let's try this again. And now run is available, but I'm going to use the layer extent of the MapTileLoader floodplain. Yes, so I had to select Google Satellite over here so it knows what tiles it's going to take from. And when I do that and I hit run, it's going to calculate and calculate and calculate and calculate. And I'm going to hit pause until it calculates. So we have to sit here. All right, well, this is taking time because this is estimated number of tiles more than 1,000. And yikes, that's going to take a long time. So I'm not going to continue there. I think what I should do is I should go to canvas extent and zoom in tighter in on the village. And let's try that. Although this is weird because what if you were doing a much larger area? So let's just see what it says now. And maybe it's because the minimum zoom and the maximum zoom are set that way. That works better. So you see it's rendering a lot of tiles. So once again, I'm going to hit pause because you shouldn't have to sit through all this. All right, it took a long time. It seems to have run. Let's see what we got in our folder. So I go in here, Google Satellite. So this is the, no, this can't be it. Didn't do it there. Where did it put it? Let's go back and see what we had in our settings. Go to plugins, go to Qtiles. Where did it put it? imlilfloodplain.zip. So somewhere in here we have imlilfloodplain.zip. There it is. And if we unzip it, extract it, you must change the permissions. Really? Really? You can make me change the permissions? Cannot open the folder. Well, that's unusual. And let's see, we can't extract it. Let me change the permissions for this compressed file. I didn't know we needed permissions for our own thing. Some more options. Maybe it's the folder that it's in. Let me see if I cut it and I bring it out to the desktop. That's really bizarre. Put it into my own folder maybe? So you encounter these little issues. This is why I encourage you to record what you're doing. So there's documents. And let's see if I paste it in there. It can't be completed because it's open in QGIS bin. QGIS bin has it open, huh? Alright, well then, let's see. What if I open a folder? No, I don't want to do that. What if I bring in under D drive, and then if I find gotta again find where it is. So it was under back to it. It was under boundary maps and data. So here's boundary maps and other data, and it's supposed to show up in here somewhere. There it is, Imlil floodplain. And when I look at what's in there, it has, like, it took a long time to make and a long time to zip up, and it's taking a long time here. I don't know if I can just drop it on. Apparently not. Or it's frozen, not responding. So making maps with different zoom layers is a huge memory suck, apparently. And let me pause here because it's certainly sucking up all available memory. And goodness gracious, look at this. It's 601 megabytes for that one little area because of the different levels of detail, apparently. And it is not even letting me open it, and it's still frozen. QGIS, Qtiles, there's there. Let me close that. It is kind of ridiculous just how much memory this thing is using. But since it's there, let's do this. Let's do that emergency procedure of Control-Alt-Delete, and let's go to the task manager. This may happen to you, and you may need to know how to do this. Let's go to QGIS and let's end the task. So we crash the program deliberately, and then let us start it again. Or actually, while it's off, while it's down, let's see if now we have the ability to open this folder. Yes, now we do. in the MapNic folder, and there's all these different levels of detail. We have 22 different zoom levels. And in here, there are folders that have ping files. And the ping file here is, so they really are giving us all these levels of detail from that farthest out. When we go to number 1, and you see that we have saved another zoom. That's that. Oh my goodness gracious. And if we keep going up, this is fascinating. Let's go all the way up. Let's say we go up to 10, so we're halfway into the zoom. Oh my goodness gracious. So what do we have here? Yeah, we zoomed into the mountains there. And then if we go up again, and we say, well, I'm getting in toward the village closer, there's a bunch of folders and a bunch of pictures, and yeah, we zoom in. And these are each tiles. When we said that these are tiles, you can see that each one is a separate tile that would get loaded for the village. And so that's why it's taking so much memory. If I come up to the last most detailed one, there's a whole bunch of tiles, and click on any one of them, and you see like there's that one, and there's that one. Oh wow, look at all that. So that's why it's taking up so much memory. And so you have to have that question, do you really need all that? And I'm going to say no, I certainly don't. That is something to learn. So let me go and delete that whole massive thing, Imlil floodplain zip, because that's a pain. Let's go back to QGIS and not create something that big. You don't need, so that would be so you can zoom all the way out to the Earth in its entirety, and then all the way into the most pixelated, close Google satellite. Remember that Esri showed this not available at certain zoom levels. So if we come in here again and go to web and go to map services, and let's just get Google satellite, and then I wonder if geocoding would just take us there without even bringing our HAF points in. So if we type in Imlil, what does it give us? There's a bunch of Imlils. There's this one in Morocco. Atlas Mountains is the one I think that, in Safio House province. So it should be that one. And it puts a dot there, but we'd have to go up to a scale. Is that the same village? The same floodplain? Doesn't look like it. So maybe more than one Imlil. Let's go and get our points in now. Add layer, limited text. Let's see what we got. So there's our points. The project sites are here. So let's put that drop shadow in. So that is not, so there, okay, so geocoding says Imlil starts here, and our project site says, well, we want the big part of the village down here. All right, fair enough. And so if we then were on our Google satellite and we went to MapTiles, once again, Qtiles rather, and we said, all right, we want to call it Imlil floodplain. So we're going to overwrite that other zip. We're going to use the canvas extent, which is fine, but our minimum zoom is going to be, let's call it 18, and our maximum, we don't need to go that high, is going to be 19 or maybe 20. Let's see what that does if it takes a huge amount of time to do that. So it's going faster. It's still really slow, and so I think I want to cancel that. 6,546 tiles. That's a lot. So let's cancel that. let's try this again, and let's just say we want to be at 19. And this is going to be relevant when we look at Blender, because zoom levels are usually, when you want to get to the level that you're seeing here on the screen, usually talking about between 19 and 20. And I will actually just make it 19, because there still is going to be a lot of tiles to cover all that space. So, and what does it say here? Parameters. Render tiles outside of layer extent within combined extent. Make lines appear less jagged. Tile width format. Background transparency. Quality. Right overview image file. Well, let's see what this does. So now we only have 1,260 tiles. So again, I'll put you on pause and let's pick up once we have them and see if this crashes the system or not. But something very critical to know is you're dealing with memory limitations and internet speed to get these things down. So all things that will come up and plague you in QGIS, ArcGIS, Blender GIS, Unity, Roblox Studio, you name the program, this is data and it's coming in as pixels to create detailed images. It's a lot of data. We'll dumb things down. Be aware. Be right back. All right, that didn't take too long. So I guess I can close this now. And I'll now try to bring in, and I can find everything here. I don't always need to go back to this folder. I should be able to find everything under here. And my imleel, there it is. Can I open it from here? It sure takes a long time. Oh, but it did open. And I wonder if I have to unzip it or I can just drop it in. But look at all those Mapnik files. Oh, goodness gracious. So, do I really need them all? And I don't know, and I'll find out now. If I drop the whole zip in, what happens? Either a whole lot of nothing or it's taking its time. I think it's taking its time. And I may have just crashed the system. We'll find out. So I'm going to put you on pause and we'll see what the results are. So this is fascinating. It's finally shown that it wants to know if I want to select all of these or not. And I'm going to take a risk. I mean, there's a lot of information in there. But if I do select them all, I'm probably going to get in a world of trouble. But we'll try it. All right. What's that? It has options. Right? Look at the options. Add layers to a group. Show system and internal tables. Select all. Oh boy, here we go. Oh, what happened? Oh yes, something happened. It's waiting. Not responding. We'll get back to you. Okay, wow, it took a long time. Yeah. Yep. It took a long time, but it did put all of this in. For some reason, it's got RGB, red, green, blue. Well, yeah, because pixels for color made up the primary colors, red, green, and blue. So it's got all these map tiles in there, and they're at different loading level of detail resolutions. So I just dragged the zip in, interestingly enough. And so what happens is if I turn off now the satellite, what happens? I wanted to know what happens. Is anything going to happen? Are we going to be able to see any of this? Wow. It looks like it's loading down here when I do that. But sure is taking a long time. Yeah, it's thinking. So I think what this is indicating is that working with offline maps can be a bit of a pain if you want to have that same flexibility of zooming in and out. So far, I'm not seeing anything. I have all this question mark. What does the question mark mean? Oh, it doesn't know what the reference system is supposed to be. It has no projection. And now it's set to the project. Well, the project's at 3857. Let's see if that changes anything. Because if it doesn't have the right projection system, it doesn't know what the heck to do. Whereas for this tile here, it has nothing. It has to be set. Let me set it to 4326. Still not getting anything. And if I zoom to the layer, there it is, but it's way off. Or is it way off? Hard to know, because there are different projection systems, and it freezes up whenever I try something. But it is all there. So let me see if I zoom to. Do I have to set the whole thing? Oh, it's so slow. So slow. So slow. So, yikes. I can't even go to the other thing. Well, you can see then what makes this a pain in the butt. But it obviously works. So that's at a higher zooming level, and it's calculating and bringing in different zooms as I try to scroll in and out. But lordy, does it take a long time. So clearly, there it is. I can't move it down. Clearly, the more you play around with it, it's trying to accommodate and load those PNG files, which, by the way, are inside your folder wherever that was saved. I think it's there. It is Imlil floodplain and Mapnik, and we only used 19. But look at all these folders with all these images. There's one of those houses. There's another house. There's another look. So that's like, it looks like these are all the same tile. Like there it is, like extremely zoomed in, and there it is pulled out a little bit, and there is zoomed in, and there is pulled out, and there is pulled out further, and there is pulled out still further. And that's what it's trying to do, is calculate like when do I put these things in. There it is pulled out further, right? And there's the processing history. So, yikes. That's not the best way to go about things, clearly. And maybe because it's zipped. We can try one more thing. Let's crash this out. And tell it, sorry QGIS, you're taking way too long, at least on this computer. So let's end the task. If it'll even end it, it's like stuck in the task. And photos, because that's using up system memory. And end that task. And we certainly don't need Microsoft Teams gumming this up. Okay, so once again, I will go into the, I'm going to go up and I'm going to delete that, because it's just huge. Goodbye. And go back to, I've got to reboot QGIS. And we'll try to get some successful map, but I think this is very important that you're seeing this, that we're learning that getting the offline maps, you'd have to do it as much less detailed rasters if you want to, if you really want to make this work. I think what's happening is that when you're doing it through the map services, it's only loading what it needs when it needs it. And so it's much quicker. Whereas when you save it, you've got like these highly detailed rasters. We're going to find out. Once again, we will go to our web and put in our Google satellite. And we are going to load our database.
Because there's no, because the poison is not liquid. It's something
And we're going to add that.
affects you.
And we're going to go in, and this time we're going to double click, not double click. Yes, well, I always do that. I always make this easier to see. And then let's right click and open the attribute table, and let's find MLeal. It should be this. We'll zoom into the row filter. So we want to find the village of MLeal. Should show up. There's, doesn't show up. Maybe it's under municipality. There it is, MLeal. And let's go ahead and show the feature. Here we go. All right. Now we have several MLeals here. Do we? Go look at the attribute table again. Oh, because MLeal is a, yeah, MLeal is a whole province thing. Let me go back and look at the attribute table. And let me look under village and see where MLeal is. Fleet. Maybe I was looking at Armed. Let's see. Select. Zoom to feature. That's what it was. Sorry, it was the municipality of MLeal, but it was the village of Armed. So there we are. Once again. And let's go to our, select our Google satellite. And let's go to our plugins and go to Qtiles. And this time, when we do MLeal floodplain again, we're going to use the canvas extent, but we're going to make the tile width quality. I wish it would let me. Ping is fine. Make lines appear. Wow. So there really is no way to reduce all of that. And it's going to take time to do this. So this will be interesting to see. I'm going to run this, but I'm going to make the tile width and tile height smaller. So I'm going to make it half. So let's go for 128 tile width. And I wish I could lower the quality, but it doesn't let me lower the quality. Can you do that with, yes, with the JPEG you can lower the quality. So I'm going to make the quality only half of that, 35. And now it should be able to use less memory. Let's see what that does. That's going a lot quicker, as you can tell. So good for that. We can actually sit and watch it in real time now, as opposed to what we were doing before. That's a great learning thing. That's going to produce a zip. But this time, I'm going to close that. And this time I'm going to go in and see if I can unzip it. I don't know why it didn't unzip last time. Let's see. So underneath here we should have, if I sort by date modified, MLeal floodplain now. And what if I extract it? It's possibly going to do it. This time it does it. Okay. Well, this time I'm allowed. I do the extraction. And I'm not having to extract using QGIS. So, now that we are extracting, we have a date modified. We should have somewhere where it says MLeal floodplain that's been extracted. Where's that? Name. Maybe I extracted it to the wrong place. Oh, there it is. MLeal floodplain. Right, and that has the mapnik, and that has this 19 in it, and it's got all these different levels. Let's go to here, and let's drag that on. And it says is invalid. All right, let's try it from here instead. Let's go to the MLeal floodplain folder, and let's see if we can drag it on from there. It's not reacting, but it may be because it's doing the work. Certainly you could grab all of the pictures in a given folder and drag them on. They come in fairly quickly. And let's see now if they're all asking about what is it wants to know what is the projection. Let's see if we turn off the Google satellite and it doesn't know. So if we come in here and we change it to 3857, that one tile, does that help us if we zoom to it?
No.
It's there, but it's nowhere near this. Okay, so it surely can't be 3857. I should have turned the whole thing into 4326 anyway. And I do want to make sure that this band here is in 4326. And all of them should be in 4326, I guess. Can I select them all? Maybe, maybe not. So if I select them all, if it allows it, and then right click and set the layer to 4326, now they're all selected, 4326. If I take the project sites and make sure that they are set to the layer, and then go to the layer, where is my Enlil? If I then go here and say zoom to layer, I see that we are way outside of the actual region and the size is really weird. If I go to this one, that's just a zoom layer. So this is all very confusing. If I turn on the Google satellite, look at that. Like the Earth is there and there's like a massive file there. So clearly that did not work. So we don't need that. All of that is complete garbage. We're going to have to get rid of. Take that all the way down to there. And will it let us? It doesn't even let us right click to get rid of or hit delete. And if I go here, I'm going to remove the 26 entries. Now I'm just back to that, which is fine. Alright, so there's obviously a problem getting the data in. If I drop it in this way, so we're going to suggest that there's something inconclusive or something wrong with the way that I'm bringing in the Qtiles. It's not like you can go to Qtiles and load a map. This is only to run to get rid of it. There is something called MapTileLoader. And here you use a source of Google Satellite and you pick a zoom level. I got 17, and then you save to somewhere and you add the image on load. And this is a different plugin for doing similar things. Load frame would be, I'm not sure what load frame is. Add a frame, you would pick the area that you want. So before we do that, let's escape from that if we can, close that up. Let's once again find our show attribute table and then go down to Imlil into Armid and then right click and say zoom to feature. Now we're there, we can zoom in on the scale. And then go to MapTileLoader as a plugin and see if we can get a better result with that. We're using the source as Google Satellite. You have the choice of that or any other. So that does not pull from the map here as we were doing in Qtiles. It pulls off of web. Pick a zoom level, 17. I was using 19 for the other, so I guess I could go 19 there. And then you can make a frame and say, all right, I want that. And then you download it and you save it to the attribute tables. You can tell it that you want this to be in that. It just wants a folder. So I guess you don't do anything but give it a folder, and you say download. And then it downloads. And let's see what this did. So the MapTileLoader is there. If we turn off Google Satellite, we have just that region. This seemed to work much better. So I think that I'm going to change the curriculum to using MapTile and not use Qtile at all until we can figure out what's wrong with Qtiles. So if you've been watching this whole time, then you see it's much better to use MapTile, and you can change your name here, rename the layer, and call it Armid Google Satellite. And it's 19, level 19, WL19. That's that one. And here we can literally come out and look at our HAF project sites. And we can say, well, I want just the map of where our HAF High Atlas Mountains projects are. I guess we don't even need to have the Google Satellite thing on. We can go to plugins. By the way, that would be found under, sorry, let's come up because we didn't show how to get it, MapTileLoader. That would be the one there. Here's another one called MapTiler with vector things. So we can look at that. These are all optional plugins, but they're kind of cool. So let's use the MapTileLoader for this again. Let's say we want the same level 19 Google Satellite, but for this whole frame. And then download it. It's large. So if you want to get that level for this whole region, you're going to have a problem. So if we're going to do this, we probably are going to be using a zoom level of about, I don't know, let's see if we do 10, if it gives us an error message. And let's see what that says. Okay, that was pretty quick, doing zoom level 10. So here, you can see I've just got that tile. Now, how deep can I go into it? Not far, see, because I'm not online, so there's no level of detail loading. So this one, as opposed to Qtiles, which loads all the levels, this only loads the level that you ask for. So if I want to go into a specific other village, I'd better turn back on Google Satellite and turn this one off, and then zoom in. Now that's the one that we just did. But let's say we want to look at these villages here along the river, and we want to get in enough to see both of these villages. That's another zoom level. And then we would go to MapTileLoader and load in the map tiles, and there we might want to get up to level 17. Give it this frame. And then download it. Let's see if it says it's ready. So this is a better technique, but if we keep going in, it will get very pixelated as well. So if we want to then go in on this village here, let's turn off what we just loaded. We want to get to the highest resolution that Google will give us here. And then we want to get that in as a tile. We go here and here, and now we can go all the way up to 19 or 22. I mean, let's see how oh, there is no 22. What is there? There's 21. Is there 20? Yes, there is 20. Let's do that. And get all of this, if it'll let us. Yes. and then download that. And what we have then is, if we turn off the whole map and just focus on our tiles, we've got this tile here, and this tile here, and that tile there. And you can see that here we have a much higher resolution tile, whereas here we have the entire map. We come in there and we go, okay, I've got this great high resolution tile over here, but as I zoom in on this level, I have an even higher high resolution tile just right there. Right? So that part of the village there, as you can see, I just have that against that against that. So that, then that for zooming out a little more to conclude both those villages, and then that if I want to zoom out further to get all of that. And I also have Armed, which I'm very close into, and if I zoom to that layer, I would have to put my biggest thing in behind. So whatever is like most large should go behind, and then yeah, you've got that, and you can zoom to that layer. That's how to do that. And then you can be offline and continue to make maps and not worry about having web service. But that's the trick. And this is going to come in really handy when we're creating these 3D landscapes in Blender GIS, because you cannot be using like the entire world or an entire country or an entire region. It'll just bog down your memory too much. So you're always going to have to be working with subset maps within maps that are higher resolution for diving in and walking around and driving cars and putting solar panels and biodigesters in, and then have another level of detail that you are able to zoom out on to get the whole region. Like here, if I want to get everything that HAF is in, then I would take MapTileLoader, and here I'd probably want to be at a zoom level of, let's see if 10 even works for this without gumming it down. So 10 is what we used for this other map here. Download. Yeah, it's going to be fine for that. So now we have all of that at a level of 10. That should be, by the way, put underneath. And then we can zoom out of there. We can always say, I want to go straight on into the village there. And you build up your tiles. These are all tiles. All right, so that ends it for this particular part. Sorry it was such a blunder. I'll try to update the information here with the MapTiler. And actually you can see how I'm going to do that. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to let's go into let's go to here. Let's go, oh, I need to bring that behind. And I want to go to here.
Are you dripping? Are you holding it?
All right, so yeah, so we've got that layer there. So I think if I show this and I go to my screen capture and pick 5-second delay, and I say new, and I show that I'm going to plugins and MapTileLoader in there. I can use that. And then we can go and fill in the details later on. So let's add that image in there, and then let's also go back and let's make sure that we have plugin. Oh, I'm not on QGIS, so let's do it again. Let's go into 5-second delay. It's just time to go to plugins and to MapTiler and over to there. And we'll use that, drop that in to our slide. And maybe put that up here. In fact, I can match this up and it'll look like we're still on the, that's pretty cool. It'll be over here. It needs to be made a bit bigger. Almost works. Almost works. It's not too bad. Just a little bit. It's not bad. It should be a little bit longer. Yeah, I can live with that. All right, so then we can do the description down here of using MapTileLoader instead of Qtiles plugin, and I'll get back to that later on. All right, so the next thing I'm going to work on is bringing cesium into QGIS, and we'll make a separate video on that, and then I'll go back and polish up the instructions for using Qtile, because it says here Qtile is what it does, and so there's a lot of information on this. It's a map insurance policy, but MapTileLoader is better. All right, so long.